We live in interesting times.
For the headlines.
Hurricane Dorian blasts the Bahamas as a monster Category 5 storm.
Thousands of black-clad students rally at the start of a 2-week boycott of university classes.
Israel and Hezbollah exchange fire along the Lebanese border after a week of rising tensions.
And EBC Films Guerrero awarded Best Foreign Feature at the Los Angeles Independent Film Festival Awards.
Mga Angeles, wherever you're watching from around the world, thank you very much for joining us.
We welcome our viewers here in the Philippines and around the world. Good evening, everyone. I'm Sam Cepeda.
And now to the news. We start in the Bahamas, where it's facing a hurricane of unprecedented strength and violence, according to its prime minister, and he warned this on Sunday as the monster storm Dorian roared into the low-lying island chain, packing sustained winds of 185 miles per hour or 295 kilometers per hour. Dorian crashed onshore in the Abacus Islands in the northwest of the Bahamas as the strongest storm ever to hit the Caribbean chain. The U.S. National Weather Service said it was tied for the second most powerful hurricane ever in the Atlantic Basin. Parts of the Abacus were underwater as forecasters warned they faced a towering 18 to 23-foot storm surge. The National Hurricane Center in Miami said winds were gusting over 220 miles per hour with no signs of weakening as the storm barreled west over the island of Grand Bahama. Video from our EBC Bureau in the Bahamas showed water up to the roofs of wooden houses, howling winds, and zero visibility in some areas due to the strength of the wind and the rain. Bahamas Prime Minister Hubert Minnis broke down in tears at a news conference.
Parts of it is already underwater, and some areas you cannot tell the difference as to the beginning of the street versus where the ocean begins. And they've not yet been hit by the brunt of the storm. Abaco at this point in time cannot move anymore. In fact, they are now in for the long haul, and they are in a state of readiness. But as I speak, I can assure all the Vehicans that upon our return to Parliament, we will introduce legislation for mandatory evacuation.
Dorian is a Category 5 hurricane, the most dangerous on the 5-step Saffir-Simpson scale. There was little information overnight from the affected Bahamas Islands amid power cuts and limited internet access. The Abaco Islands were reported underwater after the storm hit on Sunday with a storm surge of up to 23 feet. Dorian's winds have grown in strength in recent days, but the storm itself is moving slower, prolonging its impact on islands in its path. National Hurricane Center Director Ken Graham said the Bahamas would be facing major hurricane winds, storm surge, and torrential rainfall for 30 hours more.
Hurricane Dorian made landfall on the Great Abaco Island of the Bahamas on Monday, advancing west towards Grand Bahama with winds reaching speeds of over 350 kilometers per hour. Media reports said an 8-year-old child from Abaco Islands lost his life, while the storm continues to be life-threatening according to the U.S. National Hurricane Center. Dorian exceeded previous estimations and became a Category 5 storm, and according to NASA, is carrying the strongest winds in recorded history in the northwestern Bahamas.
The National Hurricane Center, meanwhile, said the hurricane will be dangerously close to the Florida coast Monday night through Tuesday, U.S. time. Now, some U.S. experts, meanwhile, have predicted that Dorian will be some 40 to 50 miles off Florida's coast on Tuesday and Wednesday, with hurricane force winds reaching some 35 miles toward the shore. However, National Hurricane Center Director Graham pointed that this outcome is far from certain and that with every new forecast, quote, we keep nudging Dorian's track a little bit to the left and closer to the coast. Florida issued its first evacuation orders in parts of Palm Beach, home of President Trump's Mar-a-Lago Resort, and Martin counties.
With important message for people to listen to their local authorities and have an evacuation plan ready if you are ordered to evacuate. Safety comes first, and you don't want to mess with the storm that is going at 185 miles per hour, and her PSA is posted on social media. So we now have we've seen a significant increase in watches and warnings. A hurricane warning is in effect for Palm Beach, Martin, St. Lucie, Indian River, and Brevard counties, and a storm surge warning is in effect for those counties. A hurricane watch is in effect for Volusia County, and so is a storm surge watch. Now, there will absolutely be additional hurricane warnings and watches all the way up to the Georgia border on the east coast of Florida. And you can see tropical storm force winds arriving on Florida's Treasure Coast as early as late tonight. And of course, you have storm surge in places like Jupiter Inlet, forecast to be between 4 and 7 feet. There's a number of evacuation orders that have been issued. Volusia County, Indian River County, Duval County, Nassau County, and St. Johns County. They've all issued new orders today. And of course, Martin, Palm Beach, Brevard, St. Lucie had issued orders already. We've also have a number of counties that have issued voluntary evacuation orders. By tonight, the Florida National Guard will have 4,500 soldiers and airmen activated and ready to respond. They have 15 rotor wing helicopters available. An additional 24 have been offered from regional National Guard locations, and the active Army component has pre-positioned 40 additional helicopters near our state border to respond if needed. And so, we are taking this storm and the potential impacts on Florida very seriously. I hope that we watch a track over the next 24 hours and see that the threat to Florida has diminished, but we are not banking on that at all, and we are preparing for a significant event. This storm at this magnitude could really cause massive destruction, and do not put your life in jeopardy by staying behind when you have a chance to get out. And you still do have time to prepare yourself and to make sure that you and your family are safe. So we are in a situation here where this thing is perilously close to the state. I think we should all hope and pray for the best, but we have to prepare that this could have major impacts on the state of Florida, and so that's what we're doing. Obviously we want to be ready to respond as soon as the storm does pass.
After days of nerve-wracking uncertainty surrounding the storm's path, the southeastern U.S. states of Florida, Georgia, and South Carolina finally ordered coastal residents to evacuate in a mass exodus set to affect hundreds of thousands of people. The National Hurricane Center said the storm will be dangerously close to the Florida coast Monday night through Tuesday. In Washington, President Donald Trump met with his emergency management chiefs.
The safety of the American people must always come first. My staff and I receive frequent updates to ensure that we are fully prepared, and we are fully prepared, but we really basically, I don't think, ever seen anything like this working. I want to thank the Coast Guard. Carl, I know that they're really ready. I don't know, I don't know how they can come in for this one. They're going to have to come in from the outside, I guess, but because this looks monstrous. But I ask everyone in Hurricane Dorian's path to heed all warnings and evacuation orders from local authorities. It looks like they're going to have to be getting that, unfortunately, and I wish you'd watch. It's been working, it's just been building out there. It's been moving very slowly, and it's a bad thing, not a good thing. And the slower it moves, the bigger it is and the bigger it gets. And we will work very hard to minimize whatever the effect of what's coming at us. We don't even know what's coming at us. All we know is it's possibly the biggest. I'm not sure that I've ever even heard of a Category 5. I knew it existed, and I've seen some Category 4s. You don't even see them that much, but a Category 5 is something that I don't know that I've ever even heard the term, other than I know it's there. That's the ultimate, and that's what we have, unfortunately.
Florida is bracing for what could be its biggest storm in more than a quarter century. But even if, as Hurricane Dorian's track shifted north, Floridians are hoping for the best while preparing for the worst. Our ABC correspondent in Florida, Elida Sanchez, reports.
Hurricane Dorian has encouraged residents in Florida cities to push their preparation to high gear after recent reports showed of what could be a Category 5. Water and non-perishables have been flying off the shelves in local supermarkets and grocery stores. Stores are struggling to keep up with the ongoing demand for supplies. School-aged children are also seeking to make an effort in preparing for the storm. Dorian has made landfall in the Bahamas as of September 1st. Residents in these areas have been heavily preparing since the reports of the oncoming storm. Here, days before the impending hurricane, gas stations are full and resources are running out quickly. Florida government administrations are alerting residents via social media postings to ensure citizens receive the resources that they need. As of the evening of September 1st, Dorian has not made landfall in Florida and will not make as much of an impact as earlier reports had predicted, as the storm has deviated its path towards North and South Carolina. Governments have issued emergency evacuations along coastal cities in Florida as well as the Carolinas. For more updates on Hurricane Dorian, stay tuned to Eagle News. I'm Elida Sanchez, always one with 25.
Meanwhile, a woman was asking for prayers in a Facebook Live video of Hurricane Dorian slamming her home in Marsh Harbor, Bahamas. She cried, "My baby is only 4 months old. Please." Let's listen in.
Please pray for us. Please pray for us, everyone. Please pray for us. Me and my baby. Everyone that stay in the apartment building, we stuck right here. Please pray for us. I'm asking y'all, please, pray for us. Pray for Abigail, please. I'm begging y'all. My baby's only 4 months old. Please pray for us. I'm begging y'all, pray for us. The apartment building, as we stay in, the whole roof came off. We standing right here. People trying to make it to the other side where this white house is, but some people, the water just took them, and those are the only people that got to make it over there. Some people didn't get to make it. The water coming higher?
Now, Luby Georges, Director of International Affairs for Human Rights Bahamas, said people on Great Abaco Island in the direct path of the eye were growing desperate as the storm bore down on them. He said, quote, people were sending voice notes, people were crying, and he said, you can hear people hollering in the background.
My baby's only 4 months old, please pray for us. I'm begging y'all, pray for us.
Meanwhile, here are some images of the eye of Hurricane Dorian taken by the National Atmospheric and Oceanic Administration of the United States, or NOAA. Take a look. Category 5 storm battered the Bahamas with ferocious wind and rain on Sunday, wrecking towns and homes as it churned on an uncertain path towards the U.S. coast, where hundreds of thousands were ordered to evacuate.
All right, to other news now. The New York Times reported that the man who killed 7 people and wounded 22 others in a rolling rampage across West Texas at the weekend was fired from his trucking job hours before the massacre. Take a look. The gunman, identified by police as Seth Aaron Attard, 36, of Odessa, had been fired from his truck driving job in Odessa on Saturday morning, according to the New York Times and other media reported. Police had said Saturday that 5 people died in the frantic shootout spread out over several miles on roads between the cities of Midland and Odessa in the west of the state. Now, on Sunday, they said that 2 more people had died. The dead ranged in age from 15 to 57, and the 22 injured included 3 police officers and a 17-month-old girl who was shot in the mouth but was recovering.
Initially, it was thought that there may have been multiple shooters, and that is because at some point this subject changed vehicles. We are now confident that there was just the one actor. This is an ongoing investigation. It is active. There are still multiple crime scenes that are being worked. There are no definitive answers as to motive or reasons at this point. But we are fairly certain that the subject did act alone.
FBI Special Agent Christopher Combs said at the briefing that authorities did not believe there was any connection to domestic or international terrorism. The incident began when troopers tried to pull over a gold-colored passenger vehicle on the Interstate 20 highway. Mr. Girk said the driver had failed to signal a left turn. Before the vehicle stopped, quote, the male driver and only occupant in the vehicle pointed a rifle toward the rear window of his car and then fired several shots toward the DPS patrol unit, according to the Texas Department of Public Safety in a statement. 1 trooper was wounded and the suspect fled, leading police on a wild chase, during which he hijacked a U.S. postal truck and opened fire at random. Coming less than a month after a gunman killed 22 people in the Texas city of El Paso, less than 300 miles west of Odessa, the latest bloodshed has ignited fresh calls for steps to stem the U.S. scourge of mass shootings.
We are here today, and we'll be here every day until this community is pieced back together. But we know that words alone are inadequate. Words must be met with action. We need solutions that will keep guns out of the hands of criminals like the killer here in Odessa, while also ensuring that we safeguard Second Amendment rights.
U.S. President Donald Trump, in a tweet on Sunday, congratulated law enforcement and first responders for their response to the, quote, the terrible shooting tragedy yesterday. While he himself spoke after the El Paso shooting of requiring strong background checks to prevent unstable people from purchasing guns, President Trump said that recent history showed that as strong as you make your background checks, they would not have stopped any of it. Take a listen.
We'll be learning that they did an incredible job under the circumstances. It's another very sick person. So I just want to thank everybody involved. And always you say, as bad as it was, it could have been worse. But it was certainly bad. Very, very sad situation. I will say that for the most part, sadly, if you look at the last 4 or 5, going back even 5 or 6 or 7 years, for the most part, as strong as you make your background checks, they would not have stopped any of it. So it's a big problem. It's a mental problem. It's a big problem.
And the news continues here on Eagle News. We'll be right back. Stay tuned.
Liberty Las Vegas correspondent, reminding you that we should view every day as a new day. We should not let the troubles of the past hinder us in moving forward in life. And don't forget to watch Digital Nest on Tuesday and Thursday at 7:30 p.m. only on Net 25. Again, I am Nicole Tongo and I am one with 25.
Innovation, digital disruption, globalization. Startups, micro, small, and medium enterprises, as well as large corporations, all face interesting challenges in the market today. Peek into the world of exciting opportunities and partnerships to drive growth with the latest business news and information. We are open for business. Join the conversations to create a more vibrant environment for entrepreneurship. Catch Open for Business every Saturday from 5 to 6 p.m. Open for Business, from vision to action.
Thousands of black-clad students rallied Monday at the start of a two-week boycott of university classes, piling pressure on Hong Kong's leaders to resolve months of increasingly violent anti-government protests that show no sign of easing. Students have been the backbone of a movement that sprang up to oppose government plans to allow extraditions to China, but has morphed into wider protests against the Beijing-backed territory's unelected leadership. On Monday, as universities reopened after the summer break, thousands of students boycotted classes and gathered instead in central Hong Kong. Many of the students were wearing eye patches to show their solidarity with one activist who, during the earlier weeks of protest, was injured in the eye in clashes with the police. The boycott was organized by local party Demosisto and several student groups. A Hong Kong court on Monday overturned the government's decision to disqualify Demosisto candidate Agnes Chow from a preliminary by-election last year. At the Chinese University of Hong Kong, hundreds of university students have also begun gathering to protest. The University Student Union said in a Facebook statement that a city-wide class boycott would be held later on Monday at CUHK's University Mall. Hundreds have been arrested in violent clashes with police, and increasingly shrill Beijing has labeled protesters terrorists, with an editorial by China's state news agency Sunday warning the end is coming.
Meanwhile, medical workers at a public Queen Mary Hospital in Hong Kong lined the corridors and also held pro-democracy placards to show solidarity with the anti-government movement as the city's political crisis continues. One nurse suggested the protest is doomed because China will never concede. But we will still have to stand and say something. At least we have shown the world what is happening, she told AFP, requesting anonymity. Thousands of protesters gathered in 3 locations across the city, including 2 on Hong Kong Island, in Tamar Park, Admiralty, and Edinburgh Place Central. There are also thousands of university students, as you saw earlier, protesting at Chinese University of Hong Kong in Sha Tin, in the city's new territories. Now, police announced earlier that they've arrested 1,117 people since the mass pro-democracy protests kicked off in June.
Over the weekend, the city witnessed some of the worst civic violence in decades as protesters lobbed bricks and petrol bombs at police, who responded with tear gas, water cannon, and baton charges. On Saturday, hardcore protesters rampaged through the city center, setting fires and throwing petrol bombs at riot police in defiance of a rally ban. Video footage captured by local media showed police charge and beat a crowd cowering inside a train carriage, or with Amnesty International calling their actions horrifying. The images have fortified anger against the police, who protesters accuse of brutality. Hong Kong Security Minister described the violence as on the verge of being out of control. Police on Sunday responded unapologetically to questions about the subway beating, saying they had used appropriate force in response to violent acts by protesters in subway stations, which they said included vandalism and arson. Hong Kong's reputation as a stable place to do business has been shaken by the ongoing protests. Visitor arrivals have plummeted, hotel vacancies have soared, and retailers have reported huge losses.
Meanwhile, the Chinese Ministry of Foreign Affairs reacted to the weekend protests in Hong Kong when chaos descended on the city once again with tear gas. Here's Geng Shuang, the Chinese Ministry of Foreign Affairs spokesperson. Take a look.
当前在香港发生的游行示威活动已经完全超出了集会、游行、示威自由的范畴，已经演化为极端的暴力行动，严重挑战了香港的法治和社会秩序，严重威胁到香港市民的生命财产安全，也严重触碰了“一国两制”的原则底线。如此严重的暴力违法罪行，如果发生在欧洲，相信任何一个欧洲国家都不会坐视不管。关于周末发生在香港的这些暴力违法的行动，香港特区政府和香港的警方已经都做出了正式的表态和回应。我这里想要强调的是，中国中央政府，我们支持林郑月娥行政长官带领特区政府依法施政，也支持香港的警方依法止暴制乱，恢复秩序。
Now, he emphasized that the central government of China supports Chief Executive Carrie Lam in leading the SAR government to govern according to law. Her removal is one of the key demands made by protesters who also want the extradition bill to be formally scrapped and an independent inquiry into alleged police brutality. Hong Kong's reputation as a stable place to do business has been shaken by the ongoing protests. Visitor arrivals have plummeted, hotel vacancies have soared, and retailers have reported huge losses in their businesses.
Nine people were killed when an air ambulance plane crashed at a resort area near the Philippine capital on Sunday, sparking a fierce blaze and sending terrified locals fleeing, authorities said. Dramatic video on social media showed emergency vehicles rushing towards a building engulfed in roaring flames in Calamba City as authorities urged crowds to move away for their own safety. After dousing the blaze, rescuers found 9 bodies in the smoking ruins, believed to be those aboard the King Air 350 light aircraft. Philippine Aviation Authority said the plane was carrying a patient and a medical team from the nation's south to Manila when it disappeared from radar about 25 nautical miles from the capital. We were able to talk to a witness who saw the plane crash while their family was in a resort swimming in the pool.
Dito po yun, ma'am. Nakahiga po ako sa swimming pool noon. Nung nakahiga po ako, nakatingin ako sa langit, nakita ko po yung eroplano na umaandak. Biglang tinamaan po ng kidlat. Sa dami ng pagputok na yon, nakita po namin, sabi ko, pare, ano yun? Lahat kami napatingin. So, inakala namin na malayo yung babagsakan. Umikot po siya ng malayo, papunta sa bundok. Tapos maya-maya ng konti, pinagmamasdan ko, iikot, papunta sa amin. Ngayon, yung pagbagsak na, ayan na, nakikita ko na, papalapit na sa amin. Natakot ko, hindi na ako nakagalaw. Pagkatapos, bumagsak sa tabi namin, dahil kitang-kita ko po paano bumagsak sa harap namin. tumalsik po yung mga pyesa ng eroplano sa gilid ng pinagliliguan namin. Ganun po kabilis yung pangyayari. Kaya nung time na pag-ahon ko, tumakbo agad ako sa magulang ko tsaka yung mga pamangkin ko, inilayo ko, sabi ko, takbo na kayo, takbo na! Ngayon, nung pumutok na yun, mama, pumutok na. Kinuha ko na yung cellphone, binidyo ko na yun, naglakas loob, ako lang ang nagvideo. Yun lang po yung pangyayari nakita ko. Hindi nyo akalain talaga na mangyayari yun eh. Sabi na, sa isip ko lang nakanga na ako, wala na akong magawa. Yun lang po, tapos biglang lumihis po siya, doon pala siya babagsak sa tabi namin. Within, kung susukatin, 10 meters pala, hindi pala 5 meters.
The area where the plane crashed is home to numerous resorts that are packed with visitors during the hottest months.
To other news now, an escalation between Israel and Hezbollah has ended after a brief exchange of fire. But tensions remained high along the Lebanese border Monday after a series of accusations from the two enemies. Sunday's incident, which caused no casualties, followed a week of rising tensions that included what Hezbollah described as an Israeli drone attack on its Beirut stronghold on August 25. Israel hasn't acknowledged that attack, but subsequently accused Hezbollah of working with Iran in Lebanon to produce precision-guided missiles. Hezbollah had warned of retaliation, and on Sunday it fired up to 3 anti-tank missiles from Lebanon at an Israeli battalion headquarters near Avivim and at a vehicle Israel said was a military ambulance. Israel retaliated with around 100 artillery shells targeting the squad that fired the missiles. Hezbollah issued a statement soon afterwards saying it had destroyed an Israeli military vehicle and killed and wounded those inside. Israel's military leader refuted that claim, and they said no one was injured, but Israeli media reported that a ruse may have contributed to Hezbollah's statement. Israel has carried out hundreds of strikes against what it says are Iranian and Hezbollah targets in neighboring Syria since the civil war began there in 2011. It has pledged to prevent its arch-foe Iran from entrenching itself militarily in Syria.
Israel has lifted a restriction on fuel delivered to Gaza for electricity, a defense official said, a week after cutting the flow by half over a series of violent incidents. Israeli Defense Ministry unit Kogat announced on August 26 it was halving the amount of fuel allowed into Gaza from its territory after 3 rockets were fired at the Jewish state the day before. Israel responded with air attacks against the Gaza Strip's ruling Hamas movement. A series of other violent incidents in August preceded that. A further round occurred on August 27 when Gaza militants fired a mortar round across the border and an Israeli aircraft struck a Hamas post in northern Gaza in response. There have not been projectile launches from Gaza since. A defense official told AFP that the fuel restriction had been removed on Sunday. Israel and Hamas have fought 3 wars since 2008 and fears of a 4th remain.
Millions of refugee children are missing out on an education, according to the United Nations, in an appeal to host countries to prevent them from languishing in camps for years where they lose hope. According to a UN Refugee Agency report, out of 7.1 million refugee youngsters of school age, more than half don't attend lessons. The problem gets worse as they get older, with 6 in 10 refugee children attending primary school and only 2 in 10 benefiting from secondary education.
Not investing in refugees, people who have fled war zones, people who have fled countries where the world is interested in a future of peace, is not investing very simply in the future of its people. the people who could be the future teachers, architects, peacemakers, artists, politicians who are interested in reconciliation and not revenge. So it is short-sighted, and it is frankly dumb. We have in more than 20 African countries, UNHCR is collaborating with the national education authorities, as well as other UN agencies, civil society, to support refugee inclusion. And this is one of the areas that is absolutely the most critical to solve the problem. You know, where you have a country that has a decent national school system, all we're asking is please allow the refugees to attend.
Eagle News International will be right back. Stay tuned. British Prime Minister Boris Johnson raised the stakes Monday in a pivotal week of the Brexit saga by threatening to purge ruling party lawmakers who tried to block a no-deal divorce with the EU. The warning came as heavyweights from the governing Conservatives, such as former Finance Minister Philip Hammond, plotted a way to keep the Premier from taking Britain out of the European Union without an agreement on October 31. Johnson insists that he must keep the chaotic option open to get Brussels to relent at the last moment and agree a better economic deal for Britain. He poured more oil on the political fire by deciding last week to suspend Parliament, a legal but highly contentious maneuver for over a month. Ian Begg of the LSE says that the political clash expected as the British Parliament resumes sitting this week is essentially one between direct democracy in the form of the 2016 Brexit referendum and representative democracy in the form of the will of elected MPs, with a new general election a possible outcome.
I'm not going to suggest that there won't be, as I said, on the steps of Downing Street.
In some ways, it's a clever maneuver because it means that the procrastination that's been going on for several months now, even 3 years if you count since the referendum, is at last coming to an end. But those who are crying foul about it are saying so because they believe that Boris Johnson is doing something that is on the verge of being constitutionally improper. We do not actually know what device they're going to use to try to stop Boris in his tracks, but what we do know is they're going to try something. It could be to introduce a law which will stop Boris going for no deal, or it could be a vote of no confidence, or it could be something much more obscure that somebody digs up from the 17th century as a way of stopping Boris in his tracks and saying Parliament is supreme. And this is a clash between representative democracy, the members of Parliament, and direct democracy, the voice of the people. Boris seems to have sided with the people. The House of Commons says no, tradition is that we should have the final say. And that's what it's all about. It could be that there will be a general election as one way of resolving it. It could end up going to a further referendum, although that possibility seems to be receding. Or it could be an attempt by somebody else to form a government with a slightly different mandate.
Meanwhile, the pound slid once more Monday as data revealed a slump in UK manufacturing, fueled by Brexit uncertainty and wider global growth weakness, according to traders. Sterling was down around 0.5% versus the dollar, and euro approaching midday in London. That helped lend strong support to London's FTSE 100 shares index that features numerous multinationals earning in dollars and euros. The IHS Markit UK Manufacturing Purchasing Managers Index dived to 47.4 in August, which was the lowest level since July 2012, languishing below the 50 mark that indicates growth. Rob Dobson, director at IHS Markit, said, quote, high levels of economic and political uncertainty alongside ongoing global trade tensions stifled the performance of UK manufacturers in August.
Argentina imposed foreign exchange controls on exporters as it closed out a week of financial uncertainty that saw a sharp drop in the peso. Exporters were ordered to seek permission from the Central Bank of Argentina before purchasing foreign currency, according to a decree published in the official bulletin. In other new measures, transferring money abroad will now require government permission, and individuals seeking to buy dollars now face a monthly limit of 10,000 greenbacks. But there are no restrictions on people withdrawing dollars from their bank accounts, a practice known here as the Corralito, applied in late 2001 and the spark for the worst economic and political crisis in Argentine history. All these new measures will be in place until December 31. Last month, markets were rattled when pro-business President Mauricio Macri suffered a huge loss in primary elections, and his leftist opponent in October presidential elections, Alberto Fernandez, emerged as the favorite. The decree published Sunday said the currency measures were needed temporarily to regulate more intensely the currency exchange regime and strengthen the normal functioning of the economy. Argentina has been in recession since 2018 and is battling rising unemployment and one of the world's highest inflation rates, running at more than 55%. In a bid to calm market turbulence, last week, Argentina asked the International Monetary Fund to restructure its debt payments on a $56 billion bailout loan agreed last year.
In other business news, Philippine boxing legend and politician Manny Pacquiao launches his own cryptocurrency with a concert in Manila. Take a look. Eagle News, we'll be right back. Stay tuned.
Net25 is now available on OSN, the largest entertainment network in the Middle East and North Africa.
Watch your favorite Net25 shows on OSN Channel 725, same day as the Philippines.
Net25 shows live and on demand, anytime, anywhere on any mobile device on OSN Play.
Top-ranked defending champion Novak Djokovic retired with a shoulder injury after dropping the first two sets of Sunday's U.S. Open last 16th match against Stan Wawrinka. Swiss 23rd seed and 26th seed champion Wawrinka led Djokovic 6-4, 7-5, 2-1 when the Serb quit, having received treatment on his troublesome left shoulder before the start of the third set. Djokovic, who has won 4 of the past 5 Grand Slam events and 16 overall, had struggled with a painful left shoulder during his second round win over Juan Ignacio Londero. He said he felt almost pain-free following a straight sets defeat of Denis Kudla in round 3, but the problem resurfaced again against Wawrinka in the first meeting between the pair since the final here 3 years ago. Djokovic suggested he hopes to regain fitness for the Asia leg of the ATP Tour and the final months of the season.
No legs, no excuses, no problem for Netflix star and Tokyo 2020 hopeful Zion Clark. Take a look.
During high school, people kind of look at me like, oh, it's the kid with no legs. Like, even my mom will tell you, like, people will be sitting there in the stand and be like, how's he going to do this? And then I go out there and just completely destroy the guy and beat him up. And then walk off the mat and they were like wondering what happened. And I mean, I like that. I like people to know who I am. I want people to know I mean business. Man, I was like a bum kid running around the streets, like doing the worst thing you could possibly imagine. Like I was that kid. I didn't get adopted till I was 17. So I had 17 straight years in foster care, bouncing around, going through the worst possible conditions.
Clark was born in Columbus, Ohio, with a condition known as caudal regression syndrome, which halted the development of his lower body. But as he said, no excuses. He was moved from foster home to foster home early on in his life and was only fully adopted at age 17, but found an escape in wrestling when he was just 7 years old. 15 years later, and Clark is hoping to become the first person to ever compete at both the Paralympics and Olympics as he pursues his dream of Tokyo 2020 on the wrestling mat and on the racetrack. The star of the eponymous Netflix release, Zion Clark, only has one thing on his mind, and he will do anything to achieve it, as he also shows in the gym here.
Like, don't come up to me and tell me that I can't do it, especially when I've worked that long to do it. Man, I'm really gearing to make the Olympic team for 2020 this coming year. That's all my sights are set on, you know. I want that gold, man. I want that Olympic glory. I want to be like, man, I'm the fastest man on the planet. That's what I want to be able to say one day, you know.
EBC Films Guerrero was recently awarded the Best Foreign Feature at the Los Angeles Independent Film Festival Awards. Here's Alan Basadyahe.
When living in or visiting Hollywood, folks know to keep their eyes peeled for the occasional celebrity sighting or movie premiere. And if you happen to be around Raleigh Studios in the heart of Hollywood, you may also notice that the red carpet's been rolled out. That's because the Los Angeles Independent Film Festival Awards is on set, bringing stories of every genre from filmmakers around the globe. Also called LIFA, this film festival is dedicated to discovering and recognizing the outstanding work of filmmakers around the world. And with over 130 trailers and film screenings, this event connects fans of indie films with the people who create them.
there are many festivals, but I think having it in prominent place like the Raleigh Studios, you know, and like right in the heart of Hollywood, I think that's very important. And people have changed their life by being winners in these kind of platforms, and they are appreciated more in their countries, and it actually boosts the energy and the passion for those filmmakers. That's a tough competition, and yeah, the storytelling is just getting better and better. You've seen so many films today, you met with so many people over here. It's all about the drive. You saw hundreds of, you know, we had literally the full house and people from all around the world traveling here.
Access to the red carpet allowed for an up-close and personal mingling with the honorees of the night's event.
Plane Man is an animated short created by Merritt Layton and Ben Stockham about a superhero, a new kind of superhero who doesn't really save people, but saves modes of transportation.
It's about this girl that learns to move on.
This woman who is recently engaged, and she gets in this house where she has some time to think about her engagement, and that makes her think about the fear of commitment that she has since she was a child.
Very first award that I got is from LIFA 3 years back, and that actually gave me the kind of confidence that I really needed to actually make my films on a bigger scale, because you know, more recognition and more awards gives you more confidence, and you know that you're actually being successful as a filmmaker.
When you're just starting out, it is so difficult to try to get any recognition and to see how can I grow as a filmmaker. And if you do get some recognition, then you can start to see other projects and how they have gone, and then you're able to perfect your craft.
You get to dress up, it's fancy, you get to see things that people put hard work into that they really believe in, which is a lot different than you might find at the normal cinema.
It's a real honor to be here in Los Angeles because, of course, Hollywood is the center of the international film industry, and to be able to be here in Hollywood and to get recognition for a documentary film that's being filmed in some of the most remote parts of the Himalayas here, downtown Hollywood, is for us a big honor.
I just hope that everyone remembers the value of art, and even though it might be hard to share and it might be discouraging, don't give up, because everybody needs more art in their lives.
Another notable award went to EBC Films for their movie Guerrero, winning for Best Foreign Feature. What were your thoughts about that film?
It's well made, you know, it's constructed well, that's why it was an award winner, you know, so it goes through a lot of phrases in order to have that recognition. So yeah, it was really well told, I think.
And I know that one of the prevailing themes of it was about perseverance. What do you think about films that try to give that kind of message about perseverance and faith?
Well, I mean, that's one thing that it's needed in this particular time, I think. You know, the time we are living in is where the faith and those values brings much more peace and calm into people's life, I think that's very important.
Accepting on behalf of EBC Films was our very own EBC Los Angeles Bureau.
We would like to thank our Almighty God, Eduardo Villa Manalo, Executive Minister of the Iglesia de Cristo, for his continued support and guidance on this project, and to Los Angeles Independent Film Festival Awards for this great honor. Mabuhay and Pelikulang Pilipino. Thank you so much.
Well, so how does it feel to be on the other side of the interview for a change?
It was a bit unreal, you know, walking the red carpet with these talented people and getting to go up on stage with them was a big honor.
And the honor tonight was that Guerrero won for Best Foreign Feature.
Yes, on the surface, people might think this film is about a boxer, but there's so many layers to the story, and we're grateful to LIFA for awarding Guerrero. And now EBC Films has yet another film festival laurel to add to its growing list.
So is this a movie for everyone?
Absolutely. EBC Films not only entertain, but more importantly, they deliver moral and value-based stories. In this case, Guerrero teaches us how to keep going, even when the easiest thing to do is to surrender. And the idea of faith and perseverance are themes that will no doubt carry over when the fight goes on in Guerrero 2, slated to be released later this year.
When you talk about the showbiz industry, getting attention for your work can be a tough climb. And that's why film festivals like LIFA exist, to help storytellers share their artistry with a worldwide audience. In Hollywood, California, Alan Basolyahe, Eagle News, I'm 1 with 25.
Thank you, Alan. Congratulations to Guerrero and to our Los Angeles Bureau.
Yeah. Don't forget to like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter and Tumblr. Also check out our boards on Pinterest and pictures on Instagram. I'm Sam Cepeda. Thanks for joining us.
I'm Alma Angeles and
we're
1 with 25.